Hey, good afternoon, everyone. This is Charlie Pankey, Game Sierra Now podcast. Thank you for joining me today, wherever you are at. I hope the Sierra is within your sights. It is September, and we are in full fall swing here in the Sierra Nevada. And no guest today. We're actually going to do something a little different here. So I want to give you a preview of today. Today's probably going to be longer than 30 minutes because I want to share with you the trip I just got back from in Yosemite National Park. And I want to go through some detail just in case it's something that you want to plan for yourself in the future. The trip that we just got done doing was Yosemite or Tuolumne Meadows to Yosemite Valley with some different offshoots. My son and I put in roughly about 40 miles in some beautiful country. I know that for me, it was a bucket list backpacking trip that I wanted to accomplish. And I know many other people would like to do this too. So I'm hoping to bring some details to you, show some of our videos and locations so you can plan it out. Grab a pen and paper, take some notes. But I can't do these without my sponsors. So I want to make sure I give them some props today from Visit Carson Valley, our home space. It's about 2 hours from the east gate of Yosemite National Park here in Carson Valley. But we have so many things we can do right here. It's festival season. We got the candy dance coming up and so many other things. So let's do it. Just a quick promo from them, and we'll continue with our show here. So. All right, that's great. Hey, the Carson Valley is a really great place. If you ever thought about coming here, Candy Dance would be a good time to come. Bring your bikes, bring your hiking boots, lots of things to do. We're just below South Lake Tahoe. We got Topaz Lake in town. We got lots of hotels too, so great place to stay for the fall season. All right, so you guys know I'm a Yosemite nut. I love Yosemite National Park, and when I say Yosemite National Park, I'm usually talking about the Cathedral Range, Tuolumne Meadows, everything in the high country. That's where I spend most of my time when I visit Yosemite, again, because it's only 2 hours from my door. I can get there for a Saturday afternoon if I have reservations and spend all day and come home, grab a burger and leave Viney, whatever. And so this was a trip that I've been planning for quite some time ago. 4 years ago, I took a group of guys up Vogelsang High Camp, and we went over to Emeric Lake and back down Lyle Canyon. But in that time, we actually had climbed Vogelsang Pass as a group, and I saw the backcountry, and I've been craving this trip since then, probably maybe a little bit beforehand, but I really wanted to get back and see more of this portion of Yosemite. So I originally had a cousin that was going to come out. He wanted to see Yosemite really bad, and we were going to take him on this trip. But unfortunately, he couldn't make it because of timing in life and stuff, and you have to plan these things 6 months in advance. So it was just my son and I, which was fantastic. Some good quality time, and I'll share some of those stories along the way here today. Again, just want to give you a preview. Probably go over 30 minutes today. I know you're used to a 30-minute format, but hopefully this will be worth it for you, especially if you're into planning this type of trip for yourself. Okay, so first thing you know, what are we doing? We're talking Tuolumne Meadows, and we're climbing up into Vogelsang Pass, which is roughly about 3,000 feet difference. There's a little variety there, different ways you can go about it. I'll talk about the way we did. We're going to drop down into Bernice Lake. That'll be our second chapter. It's one of my highlight spots that I need to get to. And then from there, we're dropping almost 7,000 feet over the next 2 days. We're going to go to Washburn Lake. We're going to go to Merced High Camp. We're going to see Bunnell Point and the canyon around Bunnell Point, all this granite. We're following the Merced River from Washburn Lake all the way to the valley. So we're seeing some really beautiful Merced carved out canyons. We're seeing old burn scars and repair, Little Yosemite Valley, and obviously the backside of Half Dome into Nevada Falls, Vernal Falls. That's the route we took. Okay, so we figured our route was just about 40 miles. And the first thing you know is I had to plan this 6 months ago. So I bought this permit back in February, maybe January. Well, I can't remember exactly when it was. I think it's February. And planned this trip for the first week of September, which means that the shuttle bus system from Yosemite Valley back to Tuolumne Meadows is still running. This weekend here is the last weekend it runs, so you definitely need to pay attention on transportation on this route because it's a point-to-point with a bus, a hiker bus back. Rafferty Creek, great trail system. You park right near the wilderness permit system, location outside Tuolumne Meadows. We like using the Dog Lake parking lot. You can actually park at the lodge parking lot as well, but the Dog Lake parking lot, gives you a nice little entry point into the trail system, and it's only a short, maybe half-mile hike before you get to what we call the Two Bridges area, which is where the river comes in from Lyell Canyon before it joins up with the Tuolumne that heads down in the Grand Canyon. So that's a really pretty area. It's actually a good spot to get water. This time of year, Rafferty Creek is dry, so that's kind of your last water spot, if you will, before you head off. So my son and we loaded up. We got loaded up water beforehand, so we didn't stop here. We were super excited. Permits were really fast. It was, we went in on Wednesday. There was almost nobody there. Tip number one: if you want to do these trips, plan a midweek entry point. You'll be one, won't have lines to deal with at the permit station, but two, what you'll find out in this trip, we saw virtually almost nobody for 2 days. It was fantastic. So weather was a little warmer this weekend that we went in, so no water up Rafferty Creek could be a problem if you don't carry enough water. I carry about 2.5 liters of water, so I can easily make it the 5 miles up to Booth Lake, which is the first lake in our list here. And Booth Lake we've been to before. So Rafferty Creek Trail, there's two options actually into Vogelsang for trip-wise on this route. So you can actually go up Lyell Canyon and go about 6-7 miles back on Lyell Canyon before you head up to Ireland Lake, and then come down to Vogelsang. And that ends up being like a 16-mile trip. And the climb into Ireland, that's not an easy climb. That is a vicious climb. I've come down that way before, and I've always said I'll never go up that route. It just there's no reason for it. Rafferty Creek is definitely the way to go. Rafferty Creek's going to climb a little bit right out of the Two Rivers area, and then it starts entering this mixture of where the granite comes down and meets a meadow that's been, the forest and meadow battle throughout this area. So there's a big old meadow that actually goes all the way up, follows the river all the way up to Vogelsang. But the forest has come in the lower part and taken either battle in that area. You're going to follow that for probably 2.5 miles of in and out of this granite meadow area. Really pretty area. And then right up maybe the last mile and a half, you open up into the first views of Fletcher Peak and Vogelsang Peak. And it's just got this gorgeous, cleared out meadow with a big stair step path that goes through it with some sand. It's made for horses. That goes up this area, and if you turn around, you get this massive scenic view of North Peak and Rafferty, not Rafferty, but the Ragged Peak area over by Young's Lake, 20 Lakes Basin, that whole basin behind you. So you got this great vista views, and then you're heading up here. I've got a little video here. I'll pull up. I think I have that. Oh, that one didn't load. I apologize. So I don't have the Rafferty Creek one. So about 5 miles up on Rafferty Creek, you'll stop and take lots of pictures. It's a nice run. You're going to run into a turnoff for Booth Lake. And you have some choices here. Okay, so I'm going to go through my choices. I'll tell you what we did this trip, what I've done in the past, and then what I would do again if I was to advise you what you're doing. So you come to Booth Lake. Booth Lake is a smaller lake. It's very, very pretty. It has a sandy beach on one end, has a rock cliff on the north side of the lake. On the south side of the lake, there's some camping areas. And then on the west side of the lake, more camping and treat areas. So we stayed here last time we came up this area, so it was a favorite of ours. So we went down there to have lunch today. Went to Sandy Beach, got our feet wet, took our shoes off, had a nice long lunch, enjoyed the lake. It was super pretty, just like we remember it. We were the only ones there, except for some rangers that were doing some trail work nearby, so we could hear. So we just had lunch for a while, and then we took off that day for Emeric Lake. And Emeric Lake is another almost 3 miles to the west down the trail. And the Emeric Lake route is very popular for people who are doing this route. They'll take the Emeric Lake down to Babbitt, and they'll go down and they'll actually land in the Merced High Camp and finish the route this way. And that's actually the shortest route. So it's about a 27-mile route, 27.6 miles, I think. If you follow that route, and what you do is you go Vogelsang High Camp or Booth Lake, and then you would go down to Emeric, Babbitt, and then down the river that goes into the Merced High Camp. They're a very popular way. We did not go that route. The reason being is because I wanted to see Bernice Lake. So we went to Emeric Lake, so I didn't miss it. My experience at Emeric Lake is this. It was a little bit of a disappointment lake for me. It's a shallow, grassy, kind of slimy bottom lake. Definitely wasn't a lake I found a swimming hole easily on. It's surrounded by a beautiful meadow, so it kind of reminded me a little bit of Echo Lake. Have you ever seen my picture of Echo Lake? Big, huge meadow on one side where the river and creek come down from Booth Lake, it looks like. Um, the lake itself, it looks nice from a distance, and it's got granite on one side. It's got granite on basically three sides of it. The meadow on one side, so visually stunning. Okay, but the lake's not like go jump in a deep hole of blue water, and I'll explain that. My son and I talked about that quite a bit in this trip. So we found a perfect camp spot right next to the trails. Probably kind of illegal, it's kind of too close to scale, but it was already a pre-established camp spot. I hammock camp, my son tent camp, so we got set up in trees, and whole thing was set up, and we ended up having a beautiful evening. It was a little bit cooler that evening. We stayed a little bit snuggled up and did some yoga in the grass because we were pretty sore from it ended up being an eight and a half mile hike from the trailhead, so which isn't bad. Got a nice dinner in us, and then slept really, really well. It was super quiet. I kind of expected maybe we'd see some wildlife in the meadows. Saw nothing besides maybe some birds and some ducks. Perfect. About 4 a.m. the ducks started quacking. I'm not sure why. But we got up in the morning, and I needed water. So I had to walk down one of the shores quite a ways to find a spot where I can get deep enough water and not get in the water. That's kind of how shallow it was this time of year. And so found a spot. Sunrise started to come up, and it was an absolutely gorgeous place to watch the sunrise. The reflections of granite on the water definitely reminded me of Echo Lake. And unfortunately, in this service here, they don't let me show photos. I wanted to show you some photos of those. It does let me share screen, but I don't have any of those downloaded for right now. So I apologize. What I should do is just pull my phone up and show it to you. But gorgeous sunrise. We enjoyed that very, very much. And then we had a nice little breakfast before taking off to Vogelsang High Camp. Again, we were backtracking to Vogelsang on that case. If you were going the shorter route, you could just head down to Babcock, which I understand from the Lakes Yosemite guys that is actually a lake that's worth checking out. So that actually might be maybe one of those preferred spots. Here, I don't know if you can see that. That is the sunrise reflection I got off of the lake there. So it's a really pretty area to get the reflections off of. Really cool place to do. And I apologize, it's not on my screen there. So we took off next morning. Every day was going to be one of these things. Get there, have dinner, get up next day, and go. And some people don't like that, but this was definitely going to require that, especially since we're going to put almost 40 miles in. And we head up Fletcher Creek through the meadow and up towards the high camp. This route kind of bugged me. It was beautiful. The first part's gorgeous. The meadow, the creek is running. There's little waterfalls. You're in the trees the whole time. It's not really that bad at all. But unfortunately, they take you up the hill instead of just going straight to camp. And it really kind of irritated me because you get tired, right? And sometimes you just wish trail makers, would be a little more friendly. And to me, it felt a little bit like, hey, you just tortured us for no reason. But we got the high camp. That's probably more personal than anything else. And since we've been to high camp before and we had such a long period of things to see, there's some things up there that we didn't do this time, but I want to make sure I tell you about them. Because right there at high camp is Fletcher Lake, gorgeous little reflection lake. Fletcher Lake hangs on my wall. It's a picture I took there last time. It's a fantastic place. If you go a little bit beyond Fletcher Lake is Townsley Lake. Some maps call it Upper Fletcher Lake, but my map says Townsley Lake. And my understanding from fishermen is Townsley Lake is kind of famous for backcountry fishing. They like to bring their poles up there. It's been well stocked in the past, so I think it's still one of those lakes in Yosemite that's still pretty good fishing. No official trail to Townsley. You got to kind of know where to just follow the water and go up the mountain. There's also Hanging Basket Lake up there. Those are all really close to camp. Another mile or so. I'm going to forget the name of that lake. There's another lake out there. So there's several lakes in this basin. So if you decide to skip Booth or skip Emeric and stay at high camp, completely understand it gives you lots of little, offshoots for lakes and streams that you can do. The crossing from high camp heading up towards Vogelsang Pass, there's a very beautiful area. Also, Fletcher Creek comes down to kind of ponds right there, and you kind of have to do a river crossing, real easy river crossing there before heading up the pass. So high camp's cool. The reason I don't stay in high camp, one, I don't like people all that much. Not that I don't like you guys, but I don't like staying around people, like kind of having that more of that wilderness experience. So I try to get a little further away and boot flakes outside the parameters. Also, the campground at the high camp is way off the water. You can't actually see a lake. So you're like way out in the trees and you got to walk to Fletcher anyway. So there's no real advantage of staying there, in my opinion, except for it has bear boxes, which is obviously positive for some people. But we have bear cans. We feel good about it. So that's what we did on that. High camp. So we decided to skip all those lakes because we had plenty of stuff to do that day. And we started to head up to Vogelsang Lake. And so if you've never seen Vogelsang Lake, this is one of those areas where, we really, really think this is kind of one of those things. So I've got a little video of high camp here.
I remember that from last time too. This comes right out of Fletcher Lake. This little creek that runs across here. Look at this view. Just a beautiful area, Yosemite. This whole Vogelsang area is just amazing. Fletcher Peak. Enjoying the creek crossing.
This is a really pretty area there at Vogelsang. And then you climb up from there probably about 300 feet, I would say, up to Vogelsang Lake, which is just a great place to catch your breath at. So here's our walk.
This is a pretty area.
Hear me breathing. A lot of these videos take you hear me breathing.
Got ya. And we gotta climb this pass still today, but I think we're a third of the way up.
Yeah, so we're about a third of the way up the
pass. So we're gonna take a break here.
And
freshen
so we
up
stop
for
for a nice morning break.
Enjoy yourselves at this beautiful wilderness spot.
Got our feet wet here as well. We got to watch a osprey. We think it was a hawk, may have been a falcon, but I think it was a little bigger, so maybe a big hawk. Go fishing here. Saw him come in and dive and miss once and then come back around and get it the second time. So it was really cool to watch that. I've seen this happen to me a couple times in Yosemite where the birds go fishing. It's really kind of fun to watch. So that happened there. We also met a group of 4 that didn't have backpacks on, so they were day tripping. It looked like they were climbing Vogelsang Peak, which is very popular in the area. Me not being a peak climber, that's not what I did. So we stopped at the lake there before heading up the pass. Now the pass is going to be about another 500-600 feet up the pass, and it was actually much easier than we expected. It started to get a little warm. I ran into a marmot family up there, stopped, took pictures, but really the pass at that level, at that time of day, since we already climbed and kind of got our second wind, it was pretty good. I don't remember if this video of the pass here is on the way up or if it's on the top here.
Right, I guess it's fair to show you from up here.
Okay.
Fair to show you.
So you get the top.
We're heading to Gallison Lakes, Bernice Lakes. That's tonight's destination.
So Bernice Lakes, where we're headed.
This canyon valley is what we're going to be going through. Next 2 days, all the way to Yosemite, we're going to follow that down
Creek,
right there.
That canyon before it hits the Merced.
And we'll drop 7,000 feet from here.
That was our next thing.
Happy Isle.
From that spot here, 7,000 feet over the next 2 days. Is what we're saying. So, and we see Gallison Lakes there. Unfortunately, I didn't make Gallison Lakes this trip. When you go down here at Vogelsang Pass, this next little section is pretty darn steep, and you drop all the way down to Lewis Creek. And from up there, it doesn't look like those hills are very big. But I tell you that, we'd already hiked about 5 miles and then you go down, so it's about 6 miles, and you start looking up how tall those mountains are out of the creek. And so we decided to just go to Bernice Lake, catch our breath, go for a swim, and then we maybe go to Gallison's later on. And I can tell you that when we got to Bernice Lake, I was super emotional. It was so beautiful. And I was tired, and we just didn't do it. We just we ran into an obstacle getting around some water, and we said, "Now, you know what? I'm just gonna go swimming and enjoy the day here, not stress about it." Probably missed something there, I'm sure. But here's Lewis Creek at the bottom of that pass. Again, this is all just so beautiful country. We saw 2 girls down here eating lunch. Didn't say it much to them, but this is
pleasant really today here in September. So we're following the trail up the high camp here for Vogelsang Pass, and Fletcher Creek still
this is Fletcher Creek.
running down. It's really made it a pleasant
this was that
hike, lots of shade.
On the way to the high camp. So
we're climbing about 600 feet to camp, but the river itself the creek just has that sound of wilderness that's so special out here. So.
All right. right. So I'll stop that. That's my bad. I named that video wrong. That's actually Fletcher Creek going to High Camp. But the Lewis Creek looks kind of similar to this, actually, to be honest with you. It's a big meadow creek with trees and stuff. So honest mistake on my part there. I don't know if I have a Bernice video uploaded. The system only let me upload so many videos, so it did not give me Bernice Lake. That is too bad. I'm gonna pull a video up. Here's my phone again. That's Bernice Lake in the morning. It was gorgeous. I have a bunch more. Let me pull myself back up here and get rid of this video here just for a moment there. I think I'm done with that. There you go. So you climb up the Bernice Lake, and when you get down to Lewis Creek, which is a great spot, there's a couple bridge spots you can stop and have lunch there. Bernice Lake is about a mile up the mountain. Again, it's about 300-foot climb. It's really kind of a horse trail. I didn't really enjoy it all that much. It's not. It was probably one of the least kept trails that we actually experienced through the whole trip. But Bernice Lake met every expectation of anything that I've been doing. And the very first time I saw Bernice Lake from Vogelsang Peak, I knew that I just needed to get back there. And so that was kind of my experience. And so here, I don't know if you can see that very well. I know that's not the best picture, but that's Bernice Lake. It's a clear water granite bowl lake. It's got a entire range around it, lots of different rock color. It's obviously very much glacial carved. You can actually see like in the mountain, like 3 different chutes where the glaciers kind of melted and carved down these U shapes right inside the mountain. Water's super cold. Took a swim and it was hard to get in. It was like, whoo, take your breath away cold. But we found a great camp spot about 100 feet off the water up on this kind of rocky outcropping area. A little windy when we first got there, so it was hard to get like glass pictures of the lake. But after dinner that night and settling in, we noticed the wind stopped, and as it got dark, it started to warm up a little bit. So we had a pretty warm evening there, and then we walked down to the water as it got dark, and the stars were so bright up there, and they were reflecting off the clear, calm water, and it looked like space. So that at one point you're looking down the canyon, and I really can't show you this picture, it's so dark, but that picture I showed you of the clouds at the beginning here, that if you look that direction, you can see this small, the ledge right there at the end of the lake. That's kind of facing Yosemite Valley. Well, at nighttime, you could barely see that, so it looked like space all the way through because the stars were so clear in the water. It was really kind of a neat experience. And so we really enjoyed our evening there. Again, another one of those nights where we fell asleep, slept great, not a sound up there. The wind died down most of the night. We had a couple of ripples come in, but super nice. And the next morning, we woke up, surprisingly, it was cloudy. And so just broken clouds. So sunrise was a little bit muted. We didn't really get that bright, brilliant sunrise, but I did get some great reflection pictures again. The big reflection pictures I got, though, were like the one I showed you, was all the clouds. So it's so clear the clouds are reflecting off the water and should give me this little orange-gray glow in the water, which was really nice. And I really enjoyed my time at Bernice Lake. I hope to return there. That's one of my favorite places that I've been. It was just a really neat experience. Can't really say enough about it. So, but just to move on down the trail, and you're making plans. So then we drop back down to Lewis Creek, and then we're going to follow Lewis Creek now down to Merced High Camp today, with the plan, as long as we have the energy and we felt okay, to pick up Washburn Lake, which we've been recommended to, which is off trail a little bit. So we did that. We hightailed out of camp for being 2 days in. We were feeling good, had a good breakfast. We did about 4 miles in the first hour because it's all downhill. It's easy walking for the first hour, definitely downhill, so your feet, kind of get that groove. But none of the steps were so bad you could just let your gait go, right? Both my son and I have good gaits, so we were really cruising. Time wise, we're typically 2 hours and 2 miles an hour backpacking, so 4 miles. We were feeling it and feeling good. We did start to feel it after that, though, because of 2 things. One, the trail turns into kind of a cobblestone step, and it gets really quite steep. You can first get your first look over Merced Lake way up top. It's got some great views. A lot of times people see the pictures of the tent above Merced Lake, way above. We saw that spot, took that pictures. But in the area, it's really steep, and so a lot of times you're on these trails that were kind of designed for going uphill, and so it's a lot of cobblestone, and so your toes get crunched, and you're kind of using your sticks. And although we were still making pretty good pace, the 4 miles an hour kind of wore on us a little bit. And so you get down, you meet up the trail section that goes back up to Emeric Lake, so where those Emeric people would come down that we met down there. And then right after you meet that trail, you actually end up at the ranger station, which is about 3/4 of a mile away from High Camp there. And that's also where you can turn off for Washburn Lake. So we got the ranger station. It's in a big old growth, dense forest. It's beautiful down there. Creeks for 2 different ways coming in. We met a group of hikers that were going off trail right there. They were heading up to some lakes in the area that were off trail. Young group, lots of energy, so wished them well. And then we decided we were way early enough, so we're going to go have lunch at Washburn Lake and make sure we didn't miss that. Now, Washburn Lake says 2.1 miles from the cabin to Washburn Lake. It felt like 3.1 miles. I'm going to not going to be lie to you there. Maybe because we've already put in 6 miles and now we're adding on those additional miles, and that's what it was. It was 6 miles from Bernice Lake to the cabin. That's the way we read it, at least. So it's got to be somewhere around there. Going up to Washburn Lake is flat for the first, I would say, mile and a half. Literally flat, maybe some sandy bottom, a lot of granite, loose granite. Walking pretty easy. Old growth forest. The wind was blowing, so it was really pleasant. And then you just got to climb about 300 feet over this granite slope, and it's not big. We were just tired. I was tired. I was hungry. My son learned that I have hangry problems when I'm backpacking on this trip. So you get up to Washburn Lake. It's a beautiful lake, granite walls on 2 sides, forest wrapped. So the forest wraps the lake. It comes right up to the shoreline. Small beaches, like 12-inch beach kind of rim around the lake on at least the side that we were on. Was able to go swimming there, even though it's not super deep around the shores. Was able to walk out to my knees, and they got a little bit of that slimy, deep, wooded forest stuff. So I just jumped in, cooled off, took some time, had a nice lunch there. And then my son and I had this great conversation. So everybody has different opinions. So no one should just listen to my opinion specifically and just say, well, he said it's the best, right? Well, I like specific things. And what I was learning about my son, and he was talking about my daughter-in-law as well, is that they like other things. So I'm really big into granite bowl lakes, clear water. The landscape is varied, a lot of rock, tree, and usually they're a little higher up, but the water's clear. I can just jump off in the cold water and get out, right? My son and daughter-in-law, they love tree-lined lakes. They like lush forest, lots of green with the water. They're not really concerned about depth, and they do want to go swimming and don't really get slimy bottom, but they're really more about that, what I would call when I grew up in the Cascade Mountains with the forest-lined lakes. It's kind of more natural looking than maybe the barren lands that the High Sierra provides. So difference of opinion, neither wrong. Both my son said Bernice was great. I think Washburn was fantastic. But just if I was going to put them in order, I put Bernice and then Washburn. He put Washburn and Bernice. So you could choose your way. Either way, Washburn shouldn't be missed. So if you're taking this route, whether you're going through Emeric or over High Camp, make Washburn a stop. Washburn is fantastic. It's easy enough to get to. It's a great place to stop for a meal. And then you got to walk the 2.1 miles back down to go to High Camp. But the Merced River comes right out of Washburn. It's part of the headwaters of the Merced, up higher. Comes down the lake, then goes down. There is a couple swimming hole spots along the river that you'll see. I saw a YouTube video. There's a spot where people jump off the rocks nearby, and there's a waterfall stuff. We didn't necessarily go try to find that, but did see several deep holes along the way in the river that would be easy to stop and swim at. But so we leave there. We're still on day 2 here, or day 3. We started our descent, and then we were early enough today. We had no intention of stopping at Merced High Camp. You definitely can. It was beautiful when we got to Merced High Camp. So we got back to the ranger station, another 3/4 mile to the High Camp. Not open this year, just like any of the high camps, but there were campers there. And then we walked around the lake shore, and Merced Lake's gorgeous. It's pretty. It's got a big old granite wall on one side and trees on the other side. So it's kind of that mixture of both. My son would have really liked it there. The lake wasn't very friendly. I like getting to the shore and like go swimming. So I don't know if you walked around, maybe that'd be differently. It was a lot of meadow, grassy edges, had a lot of ducks floating around, a lot of different birds in the area. But it was very quiet, very serene environment. So I can see why people go to Merced High Camp as part of our loop. So, but our plan, and we didn't spend long though. We got enough. We refilled water, and then we took off, and we headed further to the west, down the canyon. Now you have to get at least a mile away from Merced High Camp before you can camp, and so our goal was to make it down to the Echo Valley, which is about a little over a mile and a half, maybe 2 miles out, to the junction that goes back up to Cathedral Lakes. There's a wraparound to Half Dome there, and then or you can continue west down through Bunnell Point and Bunnell Cascade. So our point was to get there and then try to find a camp spot as soon as possible. So by the time I got there, I was hungry and tired, and I wasn't in a very good mood. We met some other campers, and I was just like, I'm going on. Got to our first camp spot, and somebody was already there, which was a little frustrating for me because I was tired and hungry. And my son kind of took over and he said, I'll just go find us a camp spot, have a seat, which, of course, I didn't do. I just kind of grumbled. We finally found one. We had to cross the river because, again, not because of anything besides I was a hammock camper and I was trying to find trees of the right width. And that's one of the things you deal with when you're a hammock camper is that you can't just hang at any trees. They got to be a certain width. So 10 to 15 feet is kind of your range. So if you get less than 10 feet, then you can't get the hammock straight enough. You end up being this little banana. If you're over 15 feet, then your straps aren't long enough and the tree's got to be a certain size. There's all kinds of little things. So usually it's pretty easy. I was tired and hangry and it was a little bit complicated at this time. So we ended up crossing the river, find a spot on the other side. I'll be honest, maybe borderline, not the best place to stay. It was a little close to the water, but we were up against the granite wall on one side, the river on one side, so we just kind of sat in the middle. We did stay on established ground. My son found a sandy, some sand to lay flat, so we didn't have any bushes under us. Anyway, so we made dinner, rinsed off in the creek because we're just salty and sweaty, made water, and ended up just sitting out and hanging out in a really quiet river environment for the evening. It was gorgeous. We enjoyed ourselves. So much different than the lake environments. Definitely secluded. I was a little bit worried about wildlife here, just kind of where we were at and that being that close to water. And ultimately, when we went to bed that night, we went to bed early, like 8 o'clock that night, just being so tired. We had done about 10.6 miles, we figured, that day, and we were a little bit tired. So we went to bed early. We did have a deer go through camp middle of the night, and definitely heard something going above camp. Not sure what it was, but maybe a bear, a little bigger. Nothing came in camp, which is fine. Next morning, get up, gorgeous sunrise again. We had great mornings. I'm assuming that same deer coming back through camp, walked right through camp while we were eating breakfast. We got to watch them walk, across the river and, take a dump right in the middle of the river, remind you why you filter your water. And we got packed up when we left, and we had about another 10 and a half, 11 mile day ahead of us to the valley from there. And from that point on, it's all down. It's literally just downhill or flat. There's no more climbs except for right by Nevada Falls a little bit. So I'll take that back. So right after we left, you cross a bridge to what I'm going to call the Bunnell Cascade region, okay, which is a really pretty granite region. Granite everywhere. You're walking across solid granite. There's a granite gorge with a river down below. Got peaks all around you, big old granite domes. Really is a pretty cool area. We're first thing in the morning. We're full of water. We're just trying to get miles in. So at this point, we're kind of cruising. Get up over you have to climb up just a little bit over this ledge before it drops you down to the river. And so when you drop down the river, then you're pretty much on cruise control downhill. And we get into these little canyons where the Merced River, you can just tell, you're going, man, I wish I could be here in May. I bet you it's just amazing in May, June, early July. The river's just got to be ripping through these canyons. In September, it's a nice, easy, lazy river, little waterfalls, great big old swimming holes. Be a great place to sit and play for the day if you had time to kind of hang out in the area. The big granite domes with Bunnell Point and I think it's Moraine Dome are down there. Super pretty, big area. You finally get to a point where there was a big burn scar that went through. And I want to believe I remember this from like 7 or 8 years ago that the fire went through here. And it's It's recovering now. There's lots of green and grass growing, lots of bushes. What I called blueberries. My son says I think that was lilac or something, but I go that doesn't make sense to me, but maybe that's true. By the way, forgot to show you Washburn Lake. Would you like to see it? I know we're in the middle of a video here, but I've got these loaded. It'd be a shame not to show you Washburn Lake while I'm here. I was going to show you a different.
Well, it's lunchtime. We
see if we can get
just
this
made
right here.
what felt like the longest 2-mile stretch. Ranger station
There's
to
Washburn Lake for you.
Washburn Lake. I've always been told this is such a beautiful place to come.
It is really pretty.
And you can see why. It's just got this awesome valley view, granite walls, beautiful backdrop, wooded shores.
All right, so that was Washburn Lake. Again, that was back the night before.
Following.
Here is
Trail out of
camp.
Merced High Camp. Forgot to shoot a video there for you. Sorry.
So this is right out of High Camp.
Here's the Merced River coming out of High Camp. We'll slide in the pool. It's good this time of year, but I imagine in springtime to not. So
yeah,
no much.
That's coming right into the big
okay,
pool.
We got about a mile and a half for our camp for today. So
yeah, so this is before we camped the night before right on Merced. And then this is Merced River. Let's see which one this is. Got the Merced River. Okay, this is right before that.
Water slide into a big old pool
slide right here. With a big old
Bernice.
deep pool, so you can actually easily slide down that if we want to stop right before that timber there, and then walk through this old burn scar. And the burn scar ends in Little Yosemite Valley. To be honest with you, it goes all the way down there. But you end up in this big, huge meadow right before Yosemite Valley, which is really cool. The wind was actually howling through there and making like almost ghost sounds to the trees. It stopped you in your tracks. It really did. It's like, wow, what was that? It's a place where you expect to see bears and coyotes running around or whatever. And we didn't see any wildlife at all besides birds. But really pretty area. But that's where you first get your first real big glimpse of Half Dome. You see it a couple times here and there through the trip. But now it's like right in front of you, this big old, destination that people look up. We weren't going to do Half Dome. Neither of my son and I. Never done it. Probably should do it. But it's not something that burns in my heart to get done. I just love following rivers and waters and valleys and seeing it all. I can't imagine actually climbing Half Dome with my strength and power sometimes, and I just go, I don't know. I don't know what the thing is. So up to this point, we've seen 2 people all day, camped by ourselves, saw 2 people. We passed them. They were going the same direction. We never saw them again. Went across this meadow, and we got to Little Yosemite Valley, where there's a campground at. There were campers there, and we started to see civilization again. And I want to stop here for real quick, because if you ever spent any time in wilderness at all, there's always that disappointment that happens when you get back to civilization, right? Because you've just desensitized your entire life. You have communications limited. You're soaked in God's glory and creation. You're just out in this wilderness environment. You're surviving on whatever means it is that you brought. Maybe you're suffering through it because you're tired. But there's something about the quietness that just fills your soul. And that's why I love backpacking. I love just that portion of the trip. So Little Yosemite Valley was a little bit sad for me, because I knew once we hit there, then that was a crossroads for the other way to Half Dome. Vernal Falls was only a mile or so away, mile and a half away. We were going to really start seeing people. And we were coming in on a Saturday, so we also knew the park was going to be busy on Saturday. So I was bracing myself for the crowds as best I could as we left Little Yosemite Valley heading for Nevada Fall. And it's definitely getting warm now. We're in the middle of the day. It was a warmer Saturday in the valley. The humidity versus the high country is definitely felt in your body. You're sweating up a storm. And I've always loved Vernal Falls, Nevada Falls, the Mist Trail. Matter of fact, Nevada Falls is probably my favorite waterfall of all the waterfalls I've seen in Yosemite. I've been up a couple times. So we came in the back door, and just as expected, we started to see more and more people in trail. We get to Nevada Falls, and there's just a circus of people. Well over 100 people. Even at the bathroom, I think as we sat there and used the outhouses there on top of the mountain and kind of hung out, probably 150 people passed by. Boom boxes and loud talking, and they're all having fun. No offense to any of them. It really takes you out of that spirit once you've been in the high country for so long. So now you're back to civilization. We saw Nevada Falls. Unfortunately, I kind of ruined it for my son. Apparently, I kept on talking about how much better it was in May than to see in September. So I feel a little bit bad by that, but it really is that much better in the springtime. So if you're going to go do this route and expect Nevada Falls and the Mist Trail to be as good as they are in May, then they're not. I know I hate to ruin that for you, but they're just lower. They're still beautiful, great views. The Mist Trail right now is closed during the week, but it's not closed on Saturday. And my son kind of wanted to experience going down the whole Mist Trail. So with packs on, which I don't recommend, we went down the steep side in Nevada Falls after having lunch. And that trail is meant for uphill only. You really should go the JMT around and maybe come down Clark's Point to Vernal Falls. You want to do that, but we did not. We went down Nevada Falls, made it with safely. Again, just dealt with people and crowds going up. And the thing I'd say about that, if you've never been up there, it's really gorgeous, but it's a hard hike. It's one of the hardest hikes I think in Yosemite. Period. It's definitely top 5, maybe top 3 of the hardest hikes in Yosemite. Just going from the valley up to top of Nevada Falls. And there's a lot of people on that hike that probably have no business being up there that are making it. So God bless them and hope they are okay. I know the first time I did it, my legs failed about 3/4 of the way up Nevada Falls, and I really had to take a long break. I actually still have problems. I have blood clots that I relate to that event, actually, for whatever reason. Just out of fitness, myself. But, it's something to be seen and done. Of course, we get down to Vernal Falls and the Emerald Pool, and it's really kind of disgusting. There's signs like everywhere. No swimming, no swimming, no swimming, no getting in the water. There's people swimming, waiting. And I know it looks safe, but I don't know. I mean, there's signs. I think you cannot miss the signs. They're like every 10 feet, don't get in the water. And there's 40 people in the water jumping off in the Emerald Pool and stuff. So I kind of found it disgusting. It was kind of ruining my time in the wilderness, completely, to be honest with you. I'm all for people having privileges and stuff, but I'm also, when you're in wilderness areas like this, you kind of need to be a little bit courteous, and I just don't find that to be courteous. That and smoking weed on the trail and boom boxes, you can get rid of all those stuff for me. My personal complaint there, if you will. So they drive me nuts. Head down to Vernal Falls. My son loved it. Beautiful Vernal Falls. Even with a little bit of water, Vernal Falls is so pretty. And then, of course, you have to climb up and go down that rail. And if you've ever been to Vernal Falls, there's that little skinny rail right at the top that you have to go through. It's a one-person channel. It's right against the rock cliff. There's a metal rail there. Well, that's what's being repaired. And the rail got crushed by a rock slide. And so we're coming down. I've got these 2 little kids in front of me, and they got chain link fence up there and these big yellow tape. And parents are doing a wonderful job trying to help the kids get down, but giving them some freedom to be kids and not make a big deal out of it. And we got through there. It's always a little dicey. The Vernal Falls side is way better than the Nevada Falls side because their steps are made for like steps. Like for me, it's an actual natural steps. So boom, boom, boom. So we're able to get down to the mist trail really pretty fast. There's not enough water right now to make a mist in the canyon. And there's people swimming below the waterfall, which I'd never seen before. There was hundreds of people down. Kind of remind me of Rainbow Falls. They're down swimming in the pool, which I think if I was younger, I probably would have done too. But I'm sure there are people like me that were going, man, that's just ruining it for me probably. That one didn't bug me as much as Emerald Pool because they didn't say you couldn't, right? So people were just, down there, being natural. So, but by now there's literally 1,000 people out there. It's just a circus. So we really couldn't wait to get off the mountain. It was hot. We wanted to go swimming ourselves. And so we just kind of buzzed through there, took some pictures, and then we were heading to the valley, finishing our hike, almost 40 miles. Got down to the bottom, took a swim in the Merced River, and my son unfortunately fell and hurt his finger, and hopefully he didn't break it. We were staying at Backpackers Campground that night, so we went and go to Backpackers Campground, got set up below the cliffs. Great place to stay if you're backpacking. And then we had a great evening at Curry Village and enjoyed some pizza and burgers and beer and ice cream and just hung out with all the people. And Curry Village didn't bug me. At that time, I was done backpacking. I was ready for a night in Yosemite Valley, which, believe it or not, of all the time I've spent in Yosemite, I've never stayed in Yosemite Valley. So this was my first night in Yosemite Valley, and I was tired, and I had a few beers, and we enjoyed ourselves quite a bit, but it was nice to see the stars come up by the cliffs and hang, and there was actually people staying up on the cliffs above us, above the backpackers campground, so we could see their headlamps up on the cliff. So it was really fun for me to be there in the evening and use the shuttle system and just kind of try to be a guest in Yosemite Valley and see why people do it. The one thing I didn't get to do is ride a bike. A lot of bikes running around. I think that would have been fun to do. And I didn't get on the bus and go see other waterfalls. We'd seen the best of the best already. Yosemite Falls is pretty dry, if not completely dry right now. So that was, that was kind of the experience we had today. Next morning, we're up bright and early. Head over to Curry Village, grab some coffee, and wait for the bus. The hiker bus leaves at 8 a.m. from Curry Village, and it takes you back up Tuolumne Meadows. You also could get it at the Yosemite Lodge. Could have caught it there if we wanted to, but Curry Village was close enough to Backpackers Camp, so we stayed. We hopped on the bus. That was a pretty simple process. It does cost, I want to say $30 maybe, $17, 34 for two of us, to ride the bus up from the valley to Tuolumne Meadows. And so and making reservations. So luckily my son was with me and reads instructions. I missed all that online. I couldn't find it online. He read the app, figured that out, made the reservations while we were in Backpackers Camp. So we had our permits. If you do not have a permit, what I found out is that they'll pick you up at Curry Village and they take you over to the lodge where you have to buy a ticket before they take you any further. So there is a ticket buying system there. They allowed people to buy their tickets there and then ride the bus up. Bus ride up's great. Bus driver did a great job. She thinks she owned the road, and she was actually honking people off the road so she could pass them. She had places to be. We made one stop at what's the flat up there? Crane Flats, and then one stop at White Wolf, where we picked up another person at White Wolf, and then just as we passed Obit Point before we got to Tenaya Lake, we picked up some hitchhikers. It looked like some backpacking hitchhikers were waiting for the bus at the crosswalk that went up to May Lake. And she picked them up. It's $3.50 for them to get a ride in at Tuolumne Meadows, which I didn't know you could do, which was awesome. And, we moved into Tuolumne Meadows. It was just a fantastic trip. She let us off at the lodge, which was right next to our parking area. We met some other couples that were just starting this hike, actually, and we were able to talk to them leaving that day on Sunday. So we kind of gave them our tips and kind of the same rundown on the map so they could use that too. So that was kind of why I wanted to do this show today, because the lady was so nice and excited about the tips that we could share on that element of what we just did. Was so fresh in our mind that I was hoping that this video would be able to do the same thing. That if you're thinking about doing Tuolumne Meadows to Yosemite Valley, that itinerary was really awesome, and it can easily be done in 4 days. Probably my fitness level, there's no way I could have done it in 3 days. So 4 days was really comfortable. A fifth day with a day off in between would have been fantastic, which we probably would have stayed at Washburn Lake and then in between, maybe something like that. Would have probably done that with a fifth day. Or Merced High Camp could have worked too either way. But I hope to do this trip again sometime. I hope this is a trip that there's a few people in my life that I think would really enjoy it. So I'd probably do it again. I'm not sure if I'd change it much besides maybe add a day and have a 0 day in there sometime, because it really is that special back there. It met all my expectations. Even with all the downhill, and I do have blisters from the downhill. I didn't wear the right socks, and it just phenomenal trip. So I do highly recommend this trip. I want to offer up to any of my listeners here, just so you know, we have a digital magazine that comes out 6 times a year. A fall edition comes out next Thursday. This trip will be highlighted in that. This is a free read. You can reach out to me at sierrarecmagazine.com. You can find my contact information there. I'll get you a free subscription for the year, give you a code for that, and then you can just grab that subscription anytime you want to. Matter of fact, give me just a second here. I'll get you a code right now and just give it to you. You can just go online, subscribe, get a free 6 times a year digital subscription, be part of it. They can be downloaded in PDF or seen on any of your browsers. So you have all those options available to you as you're moving forward. So I think I have coupon codes here available. Maybe it's under marketing here. Hold on. Coupon code that I'll give you for this trip is, let's just say Sierra Free. Okay. So you have to be listening to the show. So if you're not listening to the show, you don't get it. But pass it around to your friends if you want to. It's Sierra free, no space. If you go in and place an order and put Sierra free there, then you can grab a 1-year subscription for free on us as part of listening to the show today. If you have any questions on this trip or want to talk about planning a trip, also my subscribers have options to get a hold of me, and I'll do trip planning with them and talk to them through things they're doing. So feel free to do that. But we do hope you come join us and read the magazine. We have a trip in there for Vogelsang Pass in this issue as well. We also have a trip in there to the Chocolate Lakes Basin out of Bishop in there. So it's kind of our fall fishing and hiking guide, if you will. So it's a great issue to pick up. It's probably our most read issue every year. And then we're going to continue these podcasts. I have guests coming up pretty soon. I talked to Palisades, so the director of Palisades will be on for ski season coming up here. We got some winter sports coming up. So we look forward to just continue to bring these from our sponsors, the Carson Valley. We do appreciate that. Hope you have a wonderful day wherever you're at. Hope the Sierra is in your future. Fall is a great time to come to Sierra. It's my favorite time to go hiking. We will be on next week, but then we'll be taking a week off from this podcast as we are traveling with our family. We're going to do some things with the kids and get out of the country a little bit. But we'll be back in October with a fresh sweep for the end of the year. And we do hope that you'll reach out to us on all social media channels. You can catch us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest. We're really active on Instagram. That's kind of our favorite channel. Twitter a little bit. But the podcast, our website, sierramagazine.com. Whew, that's a lot, huh? That is a great trip. I do actually have on my website a top 10 hiking trips out at Tuolumne Meadows. If you're interested to search that up, Sierra Reg Magazine top 10 at Tuolumne Meadows. It'll pop up for you. It's my list of my favorite trails. I've now done from the trail in the North Dome all the way to the border of Yosemite on the east side. I've done every trail in there at least 7 miles in. So I can give you at least that much of knowledge base. I'm happy to share it all the time and just help people plan their trips along the way. And this was by far the longest trip I've done in Yosemite, and I can't wait to do more. My next bucket list hike for Yosemite is actually coming from Sonora Pass and coming down into Tuolumne Meadows. That's the next route. And then for years, I've been trying to get Sonora Pass or Tuolumne Meadows down to Devil's Postpile. Those are the two routes that I'm really looking forward to accomplishing in my lifetime, I hope. Maybe the Grand Canyon after that. But we wish you the best wherever you're at. Thank you for being part of our family and part of our group. We hope it helped you a lot in planning your trip. Again, love to have you here. Hope to see you in your future, and hope you have a great week.